Hey, try to put it on.
I was going to say good morning because I'm used to saying good morning on all my calls, and it's not morning, it's already the afternoon.
Right. I'm sorry. How are you?
I am tired.
Yeah, we got a bunch of snow. I had to, so I was tired. So I guess I got to start from the beginning. So we got the big snowstorm, and then so we get plowed out. We hire service, so they plow our driveway because we have this wraparound driveway that I'm not trying to shovel because that would take hours. But so they came at like 4 a.m. when it was still snowing, and then the city plows come through and they block our driveways off, and they usually touch up our driveways. And I was calling to be like, hey, can you come touch up our driveway? You know, we got to, Brian has to go to work, and we can't really get out. And I was in the mindset at first, like, oh man, this sucks. And then I was like, you know what? Because she was like, I'm really sorry. Like, your plow person is this far away. I don't know if they can get to you in time. And at first, like, I was kind of being a little rude. So I checked that. I was like, you know, I'm really sorry. I was being rude. Let me apologize. And she's like, no, it's fine. But, you know, like, I was like, no, that didn't match my character that I like to portray. Or not portray, but portray. That's
embody.
Yeah, embody. That's a better one. But anyways, so then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go shovel one of my ends of the driveway. We only need one to leave and come back home. So I did that, and I got a workout out of it. I even took all the snow off the car and came back in. I was like, oh, that was nice. All right. I got rid of that catabolic energy that was holding me back. Hey, will you please not do that? That's plastic, so the cold doesn't get in. You leave it alone. Do you do that? Do you put like those for your windows? You can get some plastic, and it helps like insulate your windows, because we have some old windows. Well, it's probably because I have old windows and they let in the cold. Hey, bub, I'm trying to be nice. Leave that alone. Thank you. Go. He was like putting his hand. He's about to pop it.
Oh, trust me, I know exactly how that is.
Yeah. But anyways, so that got me out of my frazzlement. And so I called them back because they actually came like right before they had to leave anyway. So I was like, oh, that was cool. So I called them back and I was like, you know, thanks for coming out again. I'm sorry, you know. So, and it just like felt really good to do that. But anyways, that's enough about that.
Honestly, I think that would be a great topic for today.
Yeah.
My brain is like all over the place with thoughts, trying to like catch them and put them into words. It's the journeys. How do we get to where we are now? Because this is something that it's almost like elusive to some people, and I know it was to me as well. I just did the calculation. It's really just 3 years ago that I started to work on myself every single day, just at least a little bit. And when I was in that dark place, I couldn't even imagine being where I am now, because I was in the biggest pity party there was. That's the way that I would like, that's the easiest and the nicest way that I can describe it. I was at a pity party for many years, and in the party, you got to put on a really happy mask for everyone else that's at the party, right? Which means that anybody that would come into my life, whether it's friends or family, I would put on that happy face, which I actually, it's interesting how things connect in our life. That somebody says something, whereas I was working at a corporate job at the bank. At that point, honestly, it was from the beginning when I started working there. My manager would always say, this is a workplace. This is your stage, right? You got to put on a show. And again, this is what life is about. This is where we find ourselves putting on a show for everyone. And because we continue to put on the show for everyone in the acting of being who everybody expects us to be, we forget who we are. And we put that aside and we don't even know where to begin with uncovering who we are. That's where I found myself. This is where the pity party for me really, really started, because I didn't know who I was. I felt like my only purpose for existing was, nicely said, but at the same time, it's a harsh way of saying it, is I felt like I was a slave.
I
Only
agree.
to the job, to the family, to the house, to the pets, to everyone. I was doing everything for everyone else. And no wonder I found myself in a self pity party, because I didn't even know who I was outside of these things. I was the mother to my kids. I mean, I still am actually a much better mother than I was then, because I was doing everything for them, which also was not helping them one bit. So how did I get out of the pity party? And I will get into that. But I want to hear your
Okay.
story, like the beginning of the story, where you were, and then we can get into like how did we get out of there. And Megan will be joining us a little bit later.
Okay.
She's picking up her car.
Oh, that's fine.
So,
Yeah, and never mind. I'll message you that. Since you're recording, I don't want to put that here anyway, so I'll scratch that thought. But anyways, with what you're talking about, for me, I actually am doing this course. It's called the Wellness Masterclass, and I've been like putting it off for a long time, like ever since I got that commune app that I use. And it just like always is like drawing me to it, like take this. And now I'm taking it and I realize why. But anyways, back to the main point. So I think my main thing of like my personal work and growth came from about in like 2 years ago. It's when I got out of the corporate world, because I felt like a slave, working. That's all I wanted to do. I would get in arguments with Brian. No, I want to work. No, you don't, and he'd be like, well, take on your role more as a mother, a homemaker. And I didn't realize that's what he was saying. In my mind, I was like, you're asking me to lose my identity? This is the only thing that is me right now. Because like you said, I was taking care of everyone and I wasn't taking care of myself. And then so when I left that, I went through this phase of like, it was like a dissociation period. And the reason why I brought up that course is because I just learned this yesterday. And what it was saying, it's like when you go, it's like that like phase of, you left something that was you and you're going into this uncharted territory, these unknown. And so that's when my panic attacks started. That's when the fear really hit me. That's when anxiety was like controlling me. The worry was controlling me. And I didn't realize it's because I wasn't finding my purpose. I was like in this limbo land of, okay, I just left that thing that was me. Now, who am I? Like, oh. So it was, and that's when it started. And that's how I started on the path of, okay, well, let's fix it. And so slowly brought me here. And here I am.
yeah.
But I think I think it started also from when we moved here. Today is actually our 5-year anniversary of moving to Michigan. Today is a day that we just arrived here. The big day that changed my life, the day that like I left everything I knew, came with my car, my dog, my man, and that was it, into this uncharted territory. And now I just feel so empowered. And yeah, anyways. But today is it's a big emotional day, I guess too, because of it's a big shift. I saw a picture actually right before we got on the call. It popped up my memories of when we got here, and I can just see the joy on my face. And I'm like, and I remember feeling that like, this is new. I'm so excited. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can bring that now into what I'm doing every day to be the better version of myself, bring back that same feeling of moving here. So it was like a cool little realization.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up pictures into that, because that's one of the things that I was actually having a conversation with today with my coach, is that I had to take a picture for my driver's license, and it's been 5 years since I've taken a picture. And in looking at these pictures, I saw a different person. Like, I feel like when I look in the mirror, I look exactly the same. But when we change, when we grow on the inside, our outsides change. And the way, like, my eye shape changed a little bit, my mouth changed a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain, but there are changes, physical changes that we can see. And that's one of the reasons why we can read a person from a picture. We can see a lot about a person from a picture. Even when they're smiling and they're happy and joyful, we can still see the pain in that. But the way that we can see it is if we've been through the pain and we've been able to recognize it, and it really is intuitive, right? It really is. And when you mentioned that you felt like you were going to lose your identity when Brian asked you to quit your job, that is quite often what ends up happening to people. I would say that was one of my biggest pain points as well, because I lost my corporate job. Then my dream job turned out to be a nightmare job. And then that's where I started recognizing, like, what am I living for? Because just for my kids, just for my family, that's not me. That's not who I am. It's only a small part of who I am. And it was even very painful to admit that to myself, and even more painful to say it out loud to my partner, because it's like my fear was of being judged, of, what do you mean that's only part of who you are? That's the biggest part of who you are. You are a mother, and that's your job as a mother. And I hate being told what my job is. Oh my God. Do not tell me what my job is. Do not tell me that just because I am a woman, this is my job. Absolutely not. I don't do that to people, men, woman, they, them, whatever. I don't tell anyone what their job is. They know, and it's not my job to tell them what it is.
Right.
But that is, I don't want to say all of us go through that identity crisis, but a lot of us go through that identity crisis when there is changes in our life. Whether we become a parent, that's a huge shift in our life. I don't even remember who I was prior to kids.
I was a sad. Just because I've been seeing pictures before, like it pains my heart to know how sad I was, and I didn't like try to work on it then. I just let myself wallow in that, like, oh, that pity like you're talking about, like, oh man. And I was going to the doctor being like, fix me, and all it was, I needed to fix myself.
Yeah. And see that right there, that pity party is another way to describe what level 1 is. Level 1 energy, all of us have access to it. And a lot of us actually do spend quite a bit of time in there, whether we express it outwardly or whether it's internally within ourselves. That is a pity party when certain things we say, I started recognizing certain things that I used to say that were positive were actually not positive, because I didn't know any better. To me, they were positive. And then now, because I've gone through a certain type of training, my ears pick that up like it's a sore thumb. And I hear that. And I recognize level 1 energy like this. And where was I going with this? I know there was a point, and then I lost this train of thought of where I was going with this level 1, the pity party. See, this is where my mind is like,
Yeah. Well, like you've said, if it's meant to be, it's meant to, if it's meant to be said,
yeah,
it's meant to be said. There may be a reason it, left the station for a minute, but I mean, it'll
yeah,
come back if
it'll be
it's
back.
meant to be. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Now, like, where was it? I know it. I'll get
oh,
it.
it'll come to you. I know
Yeah.
it always does. And I notice the more I think about something, the worse it gets. It's like, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, and it's like,
And then you're like, I don't know. Like, oh man.
yeah, no,
I had I do got to tell you this. I had a gremlin work through moment. So Rachel posted something about, it was a really nice article on cannabis and like cannabis use with mothers. And I really liked her statement on how she was saying like it's a joy to play with your kids. And it's like and the article was like what I got from it, like, cannabis helps you get in that inner kid mode more, but I had this thought when it came up was like, well, I don't know how to play. I don't like playing. Uh, what else was it? There's one more. I don't know how to play. I don't like playing. Anyways, but you catch my drift. But so I worked through it and I was like, and I did my little, like, the whole, is it true? Is it absolute true? How do people respond? I did that whole like self-reflection on it. And it was like, the main point of it was like, I didn't know how to play anymore. And I was embarrassed. Felt shame and guilt for not being like, not having that. And I was just kept burying it. And ever since I let that go and I put the statement of I love and enjoy playing. Now when I play with my son, Uriah, for those that don't know, he's my son. But it's just so much joyfulness and like I just get into that bliss zone. And the other day, like I'm not a singer, but lately I just been singing, which, fun fact, singing actually helps center your body, your vague nerve, your central channel. It helps balance you. Like, so singing is actually really beneficial. But anyways, like I was just like singing ridiculous songs. I was playing with his toys, just like, just like being a kid. And it was just like, wow, like with me holding that back, like that I was making myself believe I didn't know how, but in all reality, it was down deep. It was inside. It was there. I just had to believe in myself and realize what Gretchen was telling me. And I'd remind her of her job. Hey, let's be loving and kind and compassionate, understanding, patience. So yeah, I wanted to tell you about that because it was a big impactful moment that
it is.
yeah.
When you started talking about the story and how you started feeling a certain way and you weren't really clear in how you were feeling because it was like uncomfortable and then you clarified your feeling like because you identified that it was shame and guilt and then that once you quieted down Gretchen you recognize that you are more than capable of playing the the thought came to mind that it's muscle memory because it's kind of like the same thing as getting on the bike. You get on the bike and you ride the bike. But if when you're riding that bike, somebody else comes in and says, you're too old for the bike. You shouldn't be riding the bike. Get off that bike. It's too small for you. And you feel that shame and guilt. When somebody does the same thing, when you're playing with toys, when you're too old to play with toys, certain shame and guilt is built around that. So you stop and you put the childish things away. And for me to even say that, it hurts me to say that because why? Why do we stop playing with things? Because this is how we learn.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't do things if they're not fun and exciting for me. In other words, if there's no play involved, I don't want to do it. It's not fun. So why do we allow our kids to say these things to other kids, because this is what it really comes down to. It's not the parents that come in and say, oh, you're too old for this stuff, put it away. Because parents love when their kids play. Even if they play loud, they're fine with it. They're doing their own thing. They're not bothering me. That's the key right there. Go play with your things. Don't bother me. Right? That's a parent. Because a parent does not want to be bothered because at one point in their life, somebody shamed them about playing. And it's typically their friends, which is a child of someone else, because somehow, somewhere down the line, they were shamed. And this is a chain that passes down, passes down, passes down. Same thing with Santa. Same thing with all the other things that kids believe in. And then at a certain point, they don't believe it anymore because one of their friends says, you're just a baby, right? And there's shame and guilt that's built around it. And quiet, like the more that I'm paying attention to my clients, to conversations that I have with people, like everyone and anyone, even a complete stranger, to conversations that I have with myself, the more I'm recognizing all the pain and suffering and uncomfortableness that I feel and experience, and everyone else does too, comes back to shame and guilt.
Exactly. The favorite of the gremlin. Like in all reality, like, yes, they like to keep you safe, but really that's the favorite.
But they keep you safe. I mean, the parents do the same thing. We as parents, and I catch myself doing that all the time to this day. So anyone that thinks that I'm a perfect parent out there, I am not. I am far off from a perfect parent because perfectionism does not exist in parenting.
Nope. No.
I get angry at my kids. I lose my temper just like anyone else. I am a human being. I do have level 2 energy, which is fighter, conflict, anger. I have that. I'm working on diminishing that, but it's always going to be there because there are benefits to it. I did an ELI assessment with Hannah because she's ELI, and I did the debrief for her on Monday. Oh my God, she was like, I get it. I understand, because the purpose of ELI, understanding the energy levels, is one thing. And we can put these energy levels on ourselves and say, oh, this is where I reside the most. This is where I reside the most. But the way that ELI works, it's scientific, right? And they've perfected how the ELI works on the back end, where you answer questions. I think there's like 82 or 83 questions. And based on the answers you give, you physically see how your energy is showing up in percentages, right? In numbers. So just for helping people to understand how, for example, level 1 energy is the victim, the self-pity party, where when the first ELI that I took was 2019 May. Okay, so that's the first ELI I took. By that point, I already started working on myself quite a bit. I was aware of my pity party, and I was already working on that, but I wasn't aware of the energy levels. So my level 1, when I took my ELI in 2019 in May, level 1 was 58.6% under stress.
Wow.
That was my response. Under stress, I would go to level 1, it would be 58.6%. Okay. 1 year later, when I now at this point after the ELI, I'm very aware of how my energy is showing up, how to identify it, how to read it, how to sense it, how to understand it. And then most importantly, choices became clear to me. Right. And this is where I watched Hannah, the choices, like the abundance of choices. Because at level 1, there's no choice. Right?
That's so heartwarming.
Wow. It is. Now, a year later, I did that ELI, the same test. For me, the questions were very different, even though nothing has changed. But because I have changed, the questions to me were different. So a year later, my level 1 response went under stress. Because typical day, we're not even going to go into that because, I mean, I can, but
Right.
For this purpose, we'll just stick to the stress reaction when we're under stress, when, shit hits the fan, so to speak. My percentage under stress is 47.1.
That's
huge. Now,
huge.
keep in mind that even if I went from 58.6 to 58, just losing that 0.6, that's a huge shift alone.
Yeah. Did you give yourself a hug? Pat yourself on the back? That's huge.
No, I did something better. I cried.
Did you?
I cried. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I did it. But then looking at the top chart, this is what I remember, the pity party, okay? When I was talking about the level 1, when we're going to level 1 into this pity party, to the victim, things are happening to me. So the way that we would get out of there is by going to level 4, by being the caregiver. And this is how we would prove ourselves. This is how our jobs would allow us to prove ourselves, right? We would find our self-worth and our value in ourselves based on how much we would give to the job, to the family, to the kids, to the husband, to the pets, to everyone else, to the friends, right? My first assessment, 58% on level 1, and I can't remember level 4. I can even pull it up and look at it, but for the sake of time, I don't want to take that away from people. If anybody wants to look at it, I have another video for that where Rachel and I were talking about it.
Oh yeah.
Sharing our charts. But this is where I was. My level 4 was high. And then level 3. So it would be 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3. Right? 1 is the victim. And then to get out of there, I would go and do something for other people. And it would make me feel good. And then something would happen. I would rationalize through it, end up in level 1 or in level 4, right? I would work through whatever came up and make sense of it all. And then either go into level 1, catabolic, and feeling crappy and shitty, where the ego lives, and where narcissism actually resides as well, because narcissism is level 1, level 2, right?
Yeah.
So when I really made it fairly clear, like, oh, I get that. And that's why when I say that all of us have narcissistic qualities, doesn't mean that we take it outwardly. It can be inwardly to ourselves. So anyways, whereas now I don't go to level 4 in sense of I don't go and seek external validation, because that's what it is. Now I go to level 3. My main levels now, and they're actually the same percentage, is 3, 5, and 7.
Nice.
And
that's huge. That's amazing.
It is huge. Whereas before, my level 7 was fairly small, and it was mainly level 3, 4, and 5, if I remember correctly. And really, by us, and this is why I love ELI, because it's something tangible that we can physically see, and it has been proven. And anyone that I have done ELI with, and anyone who has done ELI, and I've had conversations with them, they always say, it's right on point. This is exactly thank you for helping me understand more of who I am. And most importantly, understanding of who I want to be. Because ELI, the purpose of ELI is not to make you feel bad. It's to help you understand of how you are showing up day to day and under stress. And then to help you see that there are other choices, right? And it's not my job to tell you, you should be doing this or should be doing that. None of that is there. Mm-hmm. All it's about is to help you see that level 1 is not the only response. Level 2 is not the only response. There's level 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that all of these levels, as good as they might sound, they still have disadvantages.
Definitely.
Right? That none of them are good or bad. Yeah, some of them are ego-driven and narcissistic, but even that has benefits.
Definitely. I agree. Yeah. That's where your uniqueness lies. That's where your self-love is.
Yeah. Is that Pickle Rick?
Yeah, it is Pickle. Yeah. Yes.
Pickle Rick.
Yeah, it is. I love this shirt. I saw it. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, mine.
I got a couple of Rick and Morty shirts for my husband, and he loves them. Like he wears them at home. Obviously, it's not like he can wear them to work, fixing cars and walking around Pickle Rick
Right.
and stuff like that. But I like we watch Rick and Morty. Now there's like I think a new season out. He watches
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. We watched them as they were coming out. Like that's one of their show. Oh, Rick and Morty. Oh gosh. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So completely off topic, but now back on track.
Right. Oh, it's okay. I know he's all peeking. He's all peeking at you over here. He's all, yeah, he's all, hey.
So I'll get to the point, and the point is this: that this journey for me, if some of you are listening or watching and paying attention, I'm sure you heard that in 1 year, I changed my level one, not just level one. When you go for one level, for me, I picked level 4. I didn't mind level 1, didn't mind my level 2, even though anger, like, don't like the anger, so we'll work on that. I'll just put my anger aside. As easy as it sounds, it was not easy and it still is not. But my main focus was on level 4 because level 4 is a caregiver. Now, you can focus as a caregiver for yourself and caregive to yourself first, and then you're still going to be giving to others. So I decided that because going through the ELI assessment, I did it with Rachel because she was the coach that I hired to go through the law of being. And having gone through it and being able to identify how my level 4 was really affecting me, and I chose myself that that ain't working for me. No more. It was at a certain point, but it's not working for me anymore. So I wanted to really just say no more. That's what it was for me. I decided that my level 4 is going to go down because I will say no a lot more than I do now to everyone else. And I would say yes to myself. That's one decision that I made 2 years ago now. And the ripple effects were enormous. Now, could I have done it by myself? Yes and no. Yes, I could, but it would be a long road to do it on my own. And no, it's because I could have easily given up because it was easier to just say yes than it is to say no. So I had a coach. After Rachel, I went through my training. I had different coaches on that journey. And now I have 2 coaches. So now I can say no, right, left, and center. Right? So what I'm saying is I'm sharing this to show everyone what's possible in really short 3 years, because the first year I was doing everything on my own, spinning out, bouncing between different things, not being able to focus. I have ADHD as well. So, I mean, you can imagine how difficult it is to just focus on one thing when it's like, oh, this is interesting, and this is shiny, and this is going to help, this is going to help. And I'm learning different things from different places, making a mush out of it in my mind, not being able to process it all through before we go to the next thing. And then it's like, okay, tone it down, Yana. Just get a professional to help you. Right? Did my ELI, had my coach, worked through some stuff, and I still continue to work on things, right? And as human beings, we all continue to work on things. But this is just 3 years. In 3 years, because to me, it feels like it's been 5 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas in reality, I sat down and I calculated my journey. It's been 3 years since I started working on myself. Very little, to now working on myself a lot more, but it doesn't feel like it's a lot more. It still feels like it's very little because bite sizes increase, right? If we start eating a grain of rice a day, our stomach will stay that little. But if we slowly increase that from 1 grain to 2 grains to 3 grains to a bowl of rice, our stomach will expand. Same thing with our minds and our abilities and our gifts and our strengths. All of these things will expand. And the same thing it's like what we focus on will grow. So if we focus on level 1 energy, like I did, that grew. And that grew, I kid you not, it grew like the weeds grow in the backyard really, really quickly. It went from one little pity party to a place where I couldn't even get off the couch and feed myself or my kids. It was just, it was a really dark place. So from that dark place to now, even pictures show the difference, right?
And everything you're saying, like, I feel like you're reading my mind, because like I just relate to it all so much. Like, it's like, yes, 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 that's exactly it. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people will relate to it because what I went through, the experience, pretty much everyone can relate to, but the stories themselves, what put me there, what got me there, my thoughts, my actions or my non-actions would be different, and it would be different for everyone. But the general feelings and the waves of what I've gone through would be very similar. I used to wake up, like another physical way to explain what happened to me in just 1 year, because this was a year journey. So before I started with my coach, before the ELI, I was still throwing up at least once a week with my anxiety, waking up with anxiety. Okay, because my anxiety went from every single day be like throwing up every morning. It was actually more like a panic attack. I'd be waking up with a panic attack and throwing up every single morning. I did that for over a year. And then from that, going to throwing up just once a week. And then after the Align, starting the Law of Being, it just disappeared. It just went away, right? And little by little, that's another way to show what's possible, going from vomiting every single day. And again, 3 years, vomiting every single day because I didn't want to exist. That's the best way I can explain it. Didn't want to do anything, didn't want to exist. I just wanted to disappear. And getting everything out and not even eating as much. I just wanted to disappear. And then to now, helping people embrace who they truly are and own that and love that. All the imperfections that we see in ourselves that nobody else sees. They might see our imperfections as our strengths, and yet we are here beating ourselves up. So that's for me. That's my little story. Now let's hear yours, because I know you have a powerful story yourself.
Well, like I talked a little bit earlier, before moving here to Michigan, I lived in California, born and raised. I was working corporate job. I honestly got into a pill addiction that I didn't tell anyone about, but I know people saw it and I deny. But moving here was that big changing point to where everything started to change. It's like really, like I was saying, today is the anniversary. It's 5 years of moving here, of that. And that's something I felt like moving away is like what helped me a lot, because I was coming here as I was able to be whoever I wanted. But then realizing, well, who am I? What am I? Like, I don't know. So I did my own thing, finding jobs again. And I got pregnant with my son. So I jumped from that to going to school, to having him, to like trying to work, and then graduating from school and deciding I didn't even want to do that. Like, oh my gosh, and there's guilt and shame there. Yeah. And then quitting the job, and finally, like 2 years ago, finally being able to start slowly, because it was slowly. Like, I tried many things. I got into like dieting. I thought that, oh, if I lose all this weight, I'm going to be happy with myself. I'm going to love myself. And yes, of course I did. I was just like, wow, look at me. But it was a lot of ego driven. I felt ego driven stuff. And so I didn't keep the weight off. because as everything happened, like I started working on my mental, I guess I got to step back a little bit. I'm kind of jumping. But anyway, so going from that, like that dissociation period of me quitting the corporate world, going into this being a business owner with Brian, to being a mom, a homemaker, but still being like, well, who am I? What's my purpose? Being in that limbo, anxiety, like I had anxiety before, but this was a moment that just, it all like popped, and it just, I had panic attacks left and right. I had friends that would come and stay with me because I was nervous to be at home by myself. I moved to a total different house because I felt like that house, oh, people were out to get me. But that feeling once moving, it came with me still. And I realized it was an ego driven, but gremlin driven too, because I was like, oh, well, it's all about me. People are out to get me. But in all reality, they're living their life. And I was scared. I was worried about everything because I didn't have that self-love and that purpose yet. Like it felt like more in the level 4, like you talk about caregiving. I was giving, but I wasn't stopping to receive as much as I should have. Like I would do some workouts, so I'd feel good for a little bit, but then it'd all come back again. So I was like, well, I can't just be doing these crazy like cardio hit workouts all the time. I'm exhausted. So then it came into, I was okay for a little bit. You know, we moved, I was finally feeling great. Then all of a sudden I got hit with anxiety again. And this is kind of like right after we started like becoming friends, and I would watch your videos and like, I'd be inspired by different quotes you said. And so then after that, I jumped into Kundalini Yoga, and that's when everything, like the light at the end of the tunnel, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is what's going to help me. So I did that for a long time, and I just did a journal reflection. So this is like perfect timing. So, and I realized that after, you know, we decided, like, cause you were helping me through messaging, and you're like, well, I can help you. And I've stepped in, because remember, it took me a minute to finally get to that whole like coaching. Like, I don't know, I excuse after excuse. I don't have Zoom. Like, I don't know about video. Like,
yeah, I remember I called you out on a couple of them because
yeah.
I know a lot of us, I myself was also using these excuses of, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. And you were one of the lucky ones that got the taste of what Yana coaching does, because you helped me on this journey as well. That it was a gift to you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree completely. Because with the life coaching, after doing, because then that's when I came across Law of Being, and that's something you were doing. And it was like, ooh, let's do this together. So I went into it last year, about October. So it's been a year. And I would say from the Law of Being, that changed my life. Like the Kundalini help, but going into that Law of Being, that was the first course I ever took. And now I'm hooked. Now I have an app that has courses and courses. I've taken 40 of them already. And I just want to do more. I'm taking another one while we're going to go back into doing the Law of Being again. Like, I just want to learn more and more. But I do realize that today I did an assessment on my stress, and I do a little too much. And it adds a little stress because I'm like, well, I got to do this, and I got to do this. Oh my gosh. And I got to do this one. So I am now learning to ease it in, you know, one day at a time, be in the moment. But yeah, that's kind of like where, and then everything just was unfolding. I worked through traumas, but the Law of Being in Kundalini Yoga and journaling, that was another big thing. Once I started journaling, and I started that around Kundalini time. So those 3 things were, and life coaching, of course, those 4 things were those things that totally like got me to where I am today. Out of that darkness, now I see light. I just see the possibilities and everything. Like, yes, sometimes I'll go down to level 1, but I notice I go to level 3 more than 1, and then I jump to 5 now. And I try to, so it's cool realizing that as well. And you kind of talking about your energy shifts, it kind of made me think about like that experience today with my driveway. Like at first I was just like, oh man, but in my mind I already knew, okay, well, I could shovel it. You know, I could sit here in this pity party and just be like, You know,
Yeah.
I could be ungrateful, or I could be grateful and do a workout, shovel the snow, because I love snow. I love water. I know you've said in the past, nature is your healing thing, and nature is my healing thing, but water, that is like a thing that like
Yeah.
really helps purify and keep me sane. So just, I was like, all right, Mother Nature, thank you. You know, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to shovel. And it was just the best workout. I came inside and I just was like, oh, like this sucked, but you know, I was able to shovel it. I mean, and they did the plows because they didn't do it there, because the time they came, I'm trying not to judge, but the time they came, I did ask them to like, can you wait when you come plow us out, at least until it's like the snow is stopped. You know, like I did set a boundary there, because they would come first thing all the time, and this has been a thing that I never set. And boundaries, that's a big thing. Setting those boundaries, that was another growth thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that in like a summary, that's really like the everything, you know, my journey, because I started just this sad, helpless person. I didn't know who I was. I just thought I was in this whirlwind, just woo. I didn't have, like, I don't know. That's the only way I know how to explain it. Because I was happy, but at the same time, like down deep, I wasn't. And I've always been like, oh no, I wasn't depressed. I never was depressed. Just anxiety. I think we've had this conversation in our coaching. But having me realize, no, Bethany, you were depressed. And if you would have dealt with the depression sooner, you would have gotten out of it sooner. But the journey made me into the person I am today. And now I can help people in the same journey, because I know anxiety is a huge thing for a lot of people. And now I have what helped me, and I have some tools that I've learned along the way that potentially will help someone else when they read, you know, my writings, or like my story, or listen to my story, or, you know, let's ask for advice and all that. It's cool. It's empowering.
It is.
So
And and I hope it's empowering for people to hear,
right.
whether you're listening or watching, whatever platform you'll find us on. I hope it's empowering to hear what's possible, and where, and of course, there's a lot more to the story, right? There's a lot more to my story. There's a lot more to Bethany's story. What brought us into the darkness wasn't the same thing that took us out of the darkness, right? Because I don't want to say it's the opposite, but it is something related to it. It quite often does come back to awareness, by simply being aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it. It helps us to pause and decide if this is what we want to continue doing. One of the things, I can't remember, there was I think a movie I watched. I'm trying to remember where it was. I don't remember. So anyways, there was something I watched that helped me to see the beauty of what some people would call suffering. So, and this is where it comes to living in the now. So many of us want to live in the now and not experience or think about the past or the future. Now, here's the downside to that, because there was something that I watched where a man had a surgery done on his brain, and he got the ability to live in the now, which means that to him, there is no past, there is no future, which basically there was not very much emotion, feelings, or thoughts in there. And it's not necessarily a fun place to be. So what I'm saying is that I used to feel overwhelmed and scared and yet excited about the past and the future. And all I wanted to do was live in the now. I want to enjoy the now, but we simply cannot even appreciate or see or sense the now without the past and the future. without thoughts, without dreams, without any of that. Being just in the now, it would basically look like this. Just
right. Yeah. Nothing. You're just like staring. But at the same time, it's okay. Like if you want, like it's good to do that because it gives your mind a rest. It like gets you to be like, yeah, exactly. Meditation. Yep.
But like, if I was in the now without the thoughts of the past, without the thoughts of the future, it's just me and the keyboard and the screen and Bethany. There would be really no emotion about anything, either direction. It would just be now. And now I'm not feeling anything. And because there is no past experience, no past emotions and feelings, I can't use them in the now. And there is no future.
True.
I can't use it in the now, which becomes an emotionless existence, which I don't know about anyone that's listening or watching. I personally would not want to live that way. I personally would love nothing more than to take the feelings and emotions that I want from the future, bring them into now, and take some of those from the past, whether, again, good or bad, doesn't exist. It's still an emotion that I can bring that into now and feel that and experience that in the now. Each and every emotion is attached to joy and allows us to feel and experience joy. So, and the only way we can experience joy is in the now. The only way we can experience any thought, feeling, or emotion is in the now, not in the future, not in the past, because whatever we're bringing from the past into now, it's in the now. In the future, it's in the now. So now is the only time that there is. And if we didn't have any of that, to me, the thoughts that come to mind, I would be just a shell of a human.
Oh.
Right. And I just wanted to say that and share that with those that might perhaps had those kind of feelings like I did, where I wanted my past.
Sorry.
Oh, barking. That's okay. I wanted my past to not affect me in the now and not feel sad in the now because of the past. And I didn't want to think about the future because it was big and scary, and I didn't know what was going to come from it. And some of the things that I knew and I wanted to have in my future also felt big and scary because it just felt unreachable, because it almost didn't sound like it was me. And I wanted that pain to go away in the future and the pain from the past to go away. But the only way we can experience the joy is in contrast of the pain, right? That's the only way that we can experience joy. Otherwise, if we didn't have these contrasts, these solid lines, so to speak, then none of us would be aware of what joy feels like.
Right. Sorry, we got a package, so Sugar was like barking, and she kept barking and barking and barking and barking, and I'm like, sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. I kind of figured it was something really exciting because that's how dogs get excited. Yeah, so that to me fits fairly. It's like on point of my journey, because in my journey I wanted to disappear and I wanted the past pain and suffering to disappear, even though I knew that there was a lot to it, that it would help me in the future. But because in the moment it's painful and I just wanted to go away, just leave me alone. I just want to be, I don't want to feel all that. I know that it's going to help me in the future. I know, but I don't want it right now. But it's like, if I don't want it now, I'll get it later. And then later I also won't want it. Right? It's like a kid. A kid doesn't want to go to school. You have to go to school. You have to learn. And the parent pushes them. Well, the universe is the parent. The universe knows best. The universe knows our journey. We don't. So we get pushed into these uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable places where we can experience pain and suffering that we don't want. And we might not still be aware of that we need it. until later on, until something happens, you're like, oh, now I know why I went through that. Now it makes sense. Why didn't you tell me that before? I did try to tell you, but you weren't listening. So I had to force you to go to school because you were a child that I know, mom, don't tell me.
Yeah.
That's how the universe does things. It pushes us because it knows we're more than capable, even though we don't feel like we are. But the only way that we will know that we are is when we're there working through the shit, digging ourselves out of that, right? And putting the, ooh, this thing's, I don't want to, ooh, this is good, I'll keep it in my pocket, right? But we still have the memory of the stench, right? Of that crap inside our hands.
Right.
And it takes time to work through all these things. Like, so one of the things that I wanted to do, because after we lost the twin girls, I've never been to the graveyard ever. And it's been 12 years now.
Okay.
So in 12 years, I have not been there. I've thought about it, and the sheer thought makes me want to cry because I remember being there the last time, and I remember dropping to the ground as they were being lowered to the ground. So to me, that's still an intense image to this day. But what I'm working towards is being able to go there and actually release the ashes of our dog. Right? So this is the ashes of Zeus. And apparently I found out that it's not just Zeus, there's other dogs in there as well. So it's only part of it because otherwise I would have paid a much prettier penny for just having his ashes. And nobody told me that. But anyways, so what I'm working towards is being able to visit and release the ashes, right? Because I don't like the whole feeling of being trapped, and this is what makes me feel like all of them are trapped in there, and I want to release it. And I know that is going to be an extremely difficult thing for me to do, and at the same time, extremely healing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, maybe closure came up when you're talking about it.
Yeah, but I've had that since he passed, right? And that was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have it on my night table by my bed, and then my husband, he said, this is just making you feel worse, let's put that away in the closet. So he put it away in the closet, and it did became easier. And then this summer is when I came up with this is a goal of mine, that, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there.
Yeah, but you'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it could be another 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I'm not pushing myself because I will do it on my timetable. I will do it the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
When I'm ready. Because then that's when it's going to work.
And you have a story to be like, to help someone else with it, to explain your journey. Like, yes, it took me this long, but you know about that, it's never too late. You take it one day at a time, you know, that's what I'd say to myself, one day at a time, on those days where I'm like, oh my God, I just want to take it all away. Like, come on. You know? Yeah. But it's about the process, the journey, and to detach from those end results and go with the flow.
Yeah. And again, also with back to the story, the end result that you mentioned, mm-hmm. The end result can look very different for different people. Like for me, the end result, like a perfect end result would be for me to walk to the site, to the graveyard, and release it with no emotions, with nothing. But then again, I know that's not going to be the reality. Yeah. I know that for me, it will start from home. And I'm trying to hold my shit together right now.
Oh, you're
because
fine.
I know it will start from the moment, from that morning. It will be the whole entire day, and it will last me a couple of days, because that's how I am. I put all of my feelings, all of my emotions into this one experience, mm-hmm. and I release it all. right? So to me, the desired outcome would be to actually get it done, however long it takes me. Even if it takes me an hour to drive around just to finally stop the car and to get out of the car, like Phoebe couldn't get out of the car to meet her dad in Friends. That might be me, right? But once it's done, that's the end result. Not how, not when, but actually maybe even putting it down, maybe not even opening it, and then leaving that for another time. The end result is to show up, feel, be there for as long as I can.
Yeah.
Right? And then go.
Yeah. I agree.
Right?
Yeah. And who knows, having this talk might help empower you to, you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Like, at one day at a time type thing. It's like tomorrow you may decide, I want to, and even just like the thought of like being like, I want to go there. That's good enough in itself. I feel like, that's a huge thought to even have this goal of going there. Like, that's inspiring. And even if you go there and you're driving around for an hour right there, that's another big step, so it's like,
and I totally agree that the physical action is not necessarily the action itself, right? It's the going. I've already gone there a couple of times, but just visualizing myself going there and taking the action, and that's also preparation. So in order for me to actually get there and physically put the urn down or break it apart or however I decide to do it when I'm there, because I'm not going to decide beforehand, I need to mentally prepare myself for being in the same place that was the most painful experience of the whole entire pregnancy journey. Know what I mean?
Oh,
because I can talk about the loss of the twins because I've done it many times. I can talk about giving birth to them in the hospital, knowing that there was no heartbeats, because I've done it many times. I can talk about all those things. I can talk about being terrified that one of the tiny little cords went back inside, that they were telling me that they might have to cut me open. I can talk about that fairly comfortably without tears. But talking about the sheer agony that I was feeling, the physical, my legs giving out when they were lowered into the ground, that I don't talk about often. Because when I do, it's not just me that feels the pain, it's the person that hears it, right? And I see that in you.
Yeah, it's like, whew.
That's any parent that has gone through a loss of a child knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because that's the closure. I mean, it's not closure.
Right.
But that's the end. That's the closure part to it. Anybody that's listening, I'm doing the air quotes with my hands. But that's the closure part of it, where it's final. That's it. Now they're being covered. I'm never going to see them again because I'm not going to go and dig them up. I have pictures, but that's the other thing I was thinking the other morning. I woke up, I'm like, oh my God, they're on CDs. One day I won't be able to see those pictures on CDs. So I got to do something about it and move it into a USB drive. So that way one day I can still look at these pictures. Mm-hmm. But that means I got to actually physically look at these pictures and look at myself in my worst state. Actually, I don't want to say that wasn't the worst state because it just things progressively got worse. But that was me broken, holding my girls. And yeah, I might have to ask somebody else to do that for me or actually do it myself. But
well, you'll do it when it's time. It will come to you. Yeah. You don't want to rush the process, because sometimes that leads to like, regret, or, oh, maybe I should have did it this way. It's just, yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful to be able to have this discussion and to talk about it. I know we have a connection. So all those words, like, you saw my hand go to my heart, because I could feel when you talked about falling to the ground. It just was like, I haven't dealt with that personally, but just, I can feel how it feels being an empath. It's weird, but like, I felt that, and it's like, I want to take that from you. I want to help you, but it's not mine. It's not mine to take.
It's a definition of feeling completely and utterly powerless, because there's absolutely nothing I could do in that moment. And all of my strength, all of my power, all of my life was sucked out of me. And that moment, even though it was slowly being sucked out of me, but in that moment, everything, it's like the rug was pulled underneath me and I just collapsed. And my husband had to pull me up from 6.5 feet high to like a zero on the ground. He had to pull me up and hold me because my legs weren't holding me. Right. And I can't even imagine what he was going through, because it's different for men. Just witnessing the person that was going to give him 2 children, lose those children, and go through what I was going through as an observer. He can't even imagine what was going through my mind, even though I know he tried. Nobody can imagine, because what goes through my mind and another woman with the same experience will be different. Right? And I can't even imagine what would be going through the minds of anybody else that's listening that might have gone through a similar experience. But it comes down to feeling completely and utterly, yeah, I know. But it comes down to completely feeling powerless, that there's nothing I can do, say, or think that would change anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Everyone came home, so I just didn't want it to be all loud during that conversation, that talk. So. But I really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's very growing, and it's going to be probably growing for other people listening. Definitely.
Yeah. But this whole entire conversation was really just to show what's possible. Like 12 years feels like a long time, but at the same time, you can see how I'm able to experience all that in the now. Like, it's actually happening. My heart is still physically hurting.
Right. Yeah.
And that was 12 years ago. That's the proof how time is an illusion, that we take all that and we feel that and experience that in the now, and we all have that.
Dad wants it.
I will be there when I'm ready. I'm just wrapping up, okay? And okay. And anyway, showing what's possible, that in short 12 years or long 12 years, I'm still able to experience all that I did in the now. And at the same time, there's a lot of other things, a lot of other stories that I'm working through as I explain it. And there's a lot that I'm also holding back and not saying, because I know those that are listening and watching of the harm it could do. Right? Expand on that story, even on that agony feeling. But I'm not going to, because I don't want to lower anyone's energy more than I need to, because I'm all about positivity. But the reason for all that you, Bethany, shared and I shared is just to show what's possible, that we can choose to, even though it doesn't feel like a choice, we can choose to stay in that place where there is quite a bit of pain and suffering happening, or we can decide to shift ourselves a little bit at a time, a little bit every single day, and get to where we are now.
Agree. I hate to cut it short, but I gotta go. There's things going on.
The same thing with mine.
Right. Let's end it with a big hug. Let's hug ourselves. Everything's gonna be okay. We got this. Until Monday.
Yeah, Monday and then Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep.
Wednesday. Yeah. This is when it's now getting into the new year. Anyways,
alrighty.
This is all just to show what's possible. Really.
Yes. Overcome the obstacles. I agree.
Yeah. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, yet the tunnel itself is an illusion.
Yes.
But it takes time to really understand and grasp the whole entire concept, because when you are in a tunnel, experience and feel the tunnel.
Yeah.
Right? We've all been there. And we saw the light, and then once we came out, we realized the whole tunnel is an illusion. But when you're in a tunnel, it's normal to feel like there is a tunnel. Just give yourself patience, love, and compassion, knowing that you will come out of the tunnel and you will finally feel and know and sense that the tunnel was an illusion, that it was just the universe keeping you safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. So anyway,
alrighty.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Talk to you later.
Until next
Bye.
week.
See you next week. Bye.
There we go.